to Chromecast. Okay, let me turn off my notifications. Cool. So this was your weekend homework, right? The less grim version of a very popular game, right? So we're going to build an app that plays this game. We heard how much you all just love games this morning. So let's see. Objectives are to reinforce component architecture in React and effectively use props and state. Right? I think we talked about when we first got into React, like that's probably the hardest thing to really get down is understanding props and state. It's kind of like chess where the rules are simple, but it's difficult in practice, right? Like, oh, I know what state is, and I know what props are. I can read the definitions of them and hear Gavin talk about them, but to actually use them just requires practice. So we're going to build a sort of reverse hangman. The players can't lose. They just get to build a snowman by adding parts each time they guess a letter correctly. So let's see. So this is reverse hangman. There's no losing. And we build a snowman by adding parts each time they guess a letter correctly. Download these files. So I downloaded the snowman files. And they look like this, right? So as we build the snowman, here are the images. Did Jason show you his version of this? So his version just uses, I think just SVG files for the various components, and then he animates them. So like the snowman like moves, like its arms articulate, right? And the snowman kind of dances. If I can find his implementation, I'll show it to you. It's really cool. Like next level stuff. And we have a word list. Let's see what the word list looks like. Cool. Awesome. So let me open this in another tab. So, right, my first thing, and what I suggest for you all, is when we first start looking at this, we're going to read the instructions and like, let's make a plan of attack. Like, how are we going to attack this problem? So we know so far that we're building something like Hangman. There's no losing, and we're doing like an additive process to build up this snowman. So let's see what Explorer mode says. Select a random word from the list and display a number of blank spaces equal to the word length. Display a list of letters A through Z as clickable buttons. When the player guesses a letter, clicks the button, all instances of that letter are revealed at their corresponding position in the word. The button becomes disabled as has already been guessed. We display the snowman image that corresponds with the number of letters revealed in the word. Cool. So I did notice that in these there are 8 steps. Step 0 through 7. And if we take a look at this word list, kind of seems like they're all 8-letter words, huh? So are they all 7-letter words? Sorry, 7-letter words. Yeah, sorry, 7-letter words. Cool. So reading through this part here, equal to the word length, maybe we have to support words of any length, but they also gave us particular snowman images that only have a certain number of states for the certain number of words. So we'll see along the way, do we support just 7-letter words, or do we support more than or less than 7-letter words? We'll see. So let's see. We could do this a couple of ways. Which do you all think is better for you? Do you want to see me go through this, how I would break it down and chop it up and make the algorithm and implement? Or do you want to do the rotating students implementing? What is anybody else saying? Rotating.
Yeah, typing together is good, but at the same time, like, if just more verbalization, the better, I think.
Okay. Anybody else have a vote?
Also, can I defuzzy this?
Oh, yes. Yeah, you know, I'm sorry. I noticed that early on that it was fuzzed.
This is very.
No. Don't use my eyes as a guess because I need new glasses anyway. Okay. Let's just do raise of hands. Who wants to do the popcorn programming, going around the room, students do stuff? How many? Okay, that's almost unanimous. Cool. All right, so let me reflector, teacher. So let's see. Who wants to start that maybe hasn't started in a while?
I'll volunteer myself.
Somebody else is? Okay, so Michael is volunteering. Cool. So let me, let's do this. Let me start the app up, and then I will push it to, nope. So what are we in? We're in week 6? No, this has got to be week 7, right? Is it week 7?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my god. It's week 6 for you.
Yeah, it's week 6 for me, but it's week 7 for y'all. Okay. So let's create React app Snowman. And I'll create the app and then push it. And then Michael can pull it and start it. That way I'll just make sure that it's in there and in the right place and with the right things. Fetching, linking, waiting.
Worst part about building this app is I constantly get the "Do you want to build a snowman" song stuck in my head. That'd be funny if
I worked in a daycare
audio every time, like
Yes.
yes. Or on letter.
Did you want to
Be
build
a snowman.
Years of frozen. Oh,
I have not seen it.
You have not seen it?
I feel like a frozen rock.
I love frozen.
I don't have kids and don't have little kids.
That was awful. And then when Finding Dory came out, I was working at a fish store.
Cool. All right, Michael. Why don't you pull down the app and we'll get started.
Well, week 7?
Week 7, Snowman. Cool. So let's talk about how we would break this down a little bit. So when I look at this, I see a number of things that we're going to have in the app. So when I look at a problem like this, I try and do that like noun and verb thing. Like what are the important nouns for me in here? So like hangman, that kind of floats around my brain, kind of like what kind of game are we building? We do have a player, but it doesn't seem like the player has a lot of particular attributes here. There's like the player can't lose. There's no scoring. So maybe we're gonna have something with the player. So there's the snowman. There are letters. There is guessing. There's correct letters and incorrect letters. I see things like random word, a list, blank spaces, list of letters, buttons. Those are the things that I'm starting to pull out of this as I'm reading this. Right? You will start as you keep practicing, as you're reading these descriptions, should get in the habit of trying to pull out these kinds of things as you're reading these problems, right? Even if you're just maintaining a little scratch list of the nouns you think might be important. Right? You may over sample nouns and verbs out of this list that you don't end up using. happen over time is the list that you pull out will start to be more closely representative of the list you actually end up using. The more that we work on these problems, the more we do code wars, the better your sense of what's important out of a description will be. So like verbs, I see selecting, I see displaying, I see guessing, I see building, disabling, revealing. Those are the kinds of things that I see so far. Let's see. So Michael, when you're set up, why don't you, you're gonna have to Chrome, oh, I don't know how this is gonna look. You're gonna have to Chromecast your screen to me so we can show your screen. This is like Chromecast Inception. He's gonna Chromecast the screen to me while I'm Chromecasting my screen to that projector. And I'm recording it. Let's hope this whole thing doesn't blow up. Allow and show all. Okay, I think we only got your tab. So why don't we, why don't you can't. No, I think you're only casting your tab. Yeah, stop. And then when it says cast in the upper left-hand corner, there's you got to click that drop down and choose desktop. I wish there was a way to set that as the default, so that once you set it, that became the default. Here we go. Okay. There we go. Cool. So looking at the instructions, right? Anytime they give us resources, probably you want to download those things and put them somewhere in your project. So the word list and the images we would probably download and put in our project somewhere. And then, yep, copy all of that, and let's make a file for that. Yeah, I would call it words.json. Cool. So let's look at the instructions. Cool. So we've got a word list, and we've got snowman images. We've got select a random word from the list and display a number of blank spaces. And let's, oh my God, it's gonna make me seasick. So for the recording, the screen is bouncing back and forth because we adjusted it and it's on a chain. It's gonna take a minute or two to settle down. So from a user interface perspective, right, we have a number of blank spaces equal to the word length, and we have a list of letters A through Z as clickable buttons. So why don't we just build that user interface? Right? Let's build a user interface that has a set of blank spaces or underscores. And we said that our words so far are 7-letter words. Let's just use 7 for our static mockup. And then let's make a list of letters A through Z as clickable buttons. So why don't we make 7 underscores here? What do y'all think? Right? It talks about a number of blank spaces. To me, when I see those kinds of things, I tend to think of lists. So my default is usually to use an unordered list for those, or an ordered list. Yeah, we'll just flex those. So let's just make 7, and just put an underscore in there. Yeah, just make 7 underscores, LIs with underscores in them. Yeah. Let's just make 7 of those. This is where Emmet's really helpful. So you can do like li times 7 tab boom underscore. I think it's built into VS Code. Cool. So let's see what that looks like. Did you yarn start? Cool. Should pop up here in a second. There we are. And Hopefully we'll get a display with 7 vertically oriented underscores.
I did.
Yeah, he yarn installed. We're just waiting for it to load. Why are we waiting? Oh, hey. Okay. Oh, you didn't save app.js yet. Save. So see the dot. Yeah. Go ahead and save it. And there we go. Hey, our beautiful user interface. We will do styling later. I wanna take. You all are now style experts. I saw you're all doing like styled components and cool styling stuff. You all have styling down. You don't need to see me do it. You had Jason for a week showing you styling stuff. Okay, cool. So there's our 7 underscores representing the spaces. We'll do some styling later. So what else did it say we have in our app? We'll display a list of letters. Right, we're going to display a number of blank spaces, and we're going to display a list of letters A through Z as clickable buttons. So let's make 26 buttons, A through Z, as another list. And we've got 26 of these. Let's make another list.
And then how do I do the?
So do li times. So no tag. Just li star 26, and it's like Control E. Does anyone know what the Emmet expander is?
I had issues with it once we switched to yarn.
Yeah, ever since I can't do somebody told me
Just Command Shift
if
P.
you make the extension on the file .jsx and work,
Oh well.
because then it recognizes, instead of just like, I don't know what this is, then it recognizes it as JSX. So
Come on. We can try, sure.
I think it was Mark that said something about that.
Right. And code is so awesome. Sorry. Sorry. In Vim, you can teach it. Those things. Yeah. Oh, someone's throwing some shade. So now does anybody remember what the keystroke is for?
Let's start from the LI. You have to close it and then times 26.
Really?
From before, right?
I get. I'm
LI.
gonna just
It
go
would just
out
be
of this
like
one.
26.
Yeah, this should work. And then
So what is it? I can Google it. What do you? And then.
so how do we expand an Emmet in code? In VS Code. It's like we can just Command Shift P and search it as well. Just Command Shift P, type Emmet, E-M-M-E-T. Emmet. Decrement. Expand abbreviation tab. Expand abbreviation. Boom. Now type a letter A and hit escape. Oh, okay, cool. Now type B. A, B, C. You could have just hit tab at that point. It would have tabbed you through all 26.
So do that.
If you undo, it won't work now. But if you undo, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. Now hit tab. Nope, undo. Go to the end. So unhighlight all of that and make your cursor just blinking at the end without it being highlighted, and hit tab. Command Shift P. Delete that space. Command Shift P. Emmet. That's Command P, not Command Shift P. You did Command P. Nope. So you need to do Command Shift P to get the. So Command P is the file list. Command Shift P is the command tab. Emmet. Yep. Do that. Now do A. Tab. B. Tab. C. Tab. D. Tab. E. Tab. But you know what we should have done? We wanted these to be buttons, right? So undo again. Undo again. Okay, now type li times 26 space button. Space button. Button. And now do the Emmet expand. Oh, really?
So
I think you'd have to do. It's the greater than. Yeah, Command Z. Yeah, li times 26. Delete. Yeah, no, I was fine. Li times 26 greater than. Nope. Delete. Delete. Right after the 6. No space. Greater than. Nope, that's a less than. Button. Now expand. Okay, now A tab, B tab, C tab. Yeah. O, P, and O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Let's save this and see what it looks like. That may not have been shorter as we learned than just doing it. We'll see. So you probably have to restart Yarn because we renamed it, or rename this back now to app.js. One or the other. Because we renamed the file out from underneath it. It got angry at us. And we'll see if this works. So many people just use .js now that extension should understand that a .js file could have JSX in it. Okay, cool. Here's our awesome user interface. What? Amazing. We're gonna win all kinds of awards, right? And they're all buttons and they're all letters. We could style it. So let's see. Like we're already done with step 2 in Explorer mode, right? Right, we're displaying the list of a random word equal to the length of the word. We hard-coded that to 7. When the player guesses a letter and clicks a button, all the instances of that letter are revealed at their corresponding portions in the word. And the button becomes disabled as has already been guessed. And we display the snowman image corresponding to the number of letters revealed in the word. Cool. So normally, right, we create our static implementation and then we make it kind of dynamic. Let's move to the part where we start to make it dynamic. Because I think this is, other than displaying the snowman image, this is about it. I don't know, let's throw the snowman image in there. Yeah, let's before the unordered list at the very top, let's throw an image in there. Above the UL, yeah. Let's throw an image in here. Yep. And then let's import. So we're not going to use the source equals like that. So let's import the step 0 image, kind of like how we do import logo at the top. No, those are our letters are going to go in there. So at the top where it says import logo, instead of importing logo, let's import. Yeah. So just change the word logo to, I don't know, snowman 0. Underscore 0 or just 0. I would do snowman. And either underscore 0 or just the number 0 after the n. Either one is fine. And then yep. So that's going to change to /snowman /step_0.png. So see how you have them in the snowman folder and then underneath. So first you have to do the snowman directory, and then you have to do step 0. So before snowman, you have to put snowman. Yep, so you got to do a slash. /snowman. Snowman. Right? Because you're in your source directory, and then a snowman directory, and then snowman 0. And then in the image tag on line 9, it's space source equals. Nope, so get rid of the equals you have there. That's too many equals. Source equals. Yep. And then in JSX brackets, no quotes. mustache, snowman 0. And then close out that image tag. Self-closing tag. No, yeah, just self-close that tag. Slash greater than. Slash close the tag. And save. Let's see if we get a snowman in here. Oh yeah, sorry, it's step _0. Yep. So up at the top. Yep, thank you, Alan. Step 0. And that's still snowman because that's what you call the variable. Let's see what we get. And we're gonna bring in our snowman. Oh, is it huge? Okay, so let's add a little CSS to make those smaller. Sure, or in the index. Either way. Just make all the images width of like 300 pixels. So image tags are going to be width 300 pixels. So, yes, and then save that. Nope, we don't have to do the height because the height will be automatic. So if we do the height, we'll squish the image. If we just do this, we should get a, cool. There's our snowman, and there's our list. Cool, so at this point, I think we have all the interface that this has, right? Is there anything else in the user interface that we're missing from this description, other than style? All right, we display a number of blank spaces equal to the word length. We have a list of letters. We don't have it doing anything, but I think the base implementation is there in terms of interface.
Why don't you do the picture like that, just the one?
Because I just want some space in the interface to have an image, right? I would at this point probably style the underscores. I would style the buttons. I would have one static version of the app that has all the elements that it's eventually going to have.
Why not put the image in the public folder and call it, so that way you don't have to import that way, right?
We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll change. The way I do it now does not necessarily mean the way it's going to end up in the end, right? All I want to do in the beginning is have something that represents the state of the app. I could put it in the public folder and then link it. That might turn out to be more difficult later when I deploy it. And we may do some fancy tricks later that'll be simpler to not have it in the public folder than to have it this way. So we may change in a couple minutes to have them in the public folder. We'll see. The way we start our static is not necessarily how we end up with the dynamic. So I just want to do something that gets a snowman picture on the page. Cool. Why don't you add and commit that, and we'll pass along the torch. Cool. Yep. And then git push. Git push. Okay. Let me just make sure that this worked okay because we renamed a file. Yep, cool. Okay, so once you disconnect, who would like to take over next? We're going to start making this a little more dynamic. Who wants to drive next? I will nominate someone. I will nominate Andrew. Were you also volunteering at the same time?
I was, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. I had this sense.
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna do my best not to be sorry, guys.
Okay, no, yeah, no sorry.
No problem, guys.
Sorry. Fine. I had a lot of imposter syndrome this week. So I went to UCB and saw probably some of the best shows I've ever seen. So one of the show that we saw the next to last night had, y'all know who Jason Mantzoukas is? He's a comedian. He's been in a couple. You would recognize him if you saw him, likely.
Oh yeah.
What's his name? Rocky.
Yeah,
I believe.
this guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was in the show.
He was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
He's a funny dude.
Weird dude.
So this is the team. This is the team that we saw. One of the teams that we saw. So like it has like you'll probably recognize this guy.
Did he go through? UCB?
Yeah, he's a UCB.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Brian Husky. He's been in like Parks and Rec and a whole bunch of things. He was freaking hilarious. And if you're watching the new AT&T commercials, Mary Holland's in those. She was hilarious. Have you seen the one with like I've invented the 13th hour to get more work done in the day? She was in that too. They were. Oh my god. Like, oh, I suck. I'm no good. And we probably saw 5 or 6 teams. They were all so good. What's that? No. I've met a couple of those folks before, but we didn't hang around a groupie very much. Cool. So when you're set up, go ahead and either Chromecast to me or Apple show to me. So let's take a look at what we're probably going to do next, right? So once Andrew's set up, we've got a couple choices to make this dynamic, right? We've got the word and the blank spaces, and we have the letters and the buttons, right? And probably one of those two is going to be where we're going to start to try and make this driven by data and dynamic. Cool. We got that thing where like the screen is really small again, right? So do the go to the little share button up here, and then yeah, the one that's lit up blue.
Oh, okay.
And then yeah, mirror that one. And then yeah, there we go. Now it's like not tiny font. Cool. So have you git pulled and npm installed or yarn installed?
I was doing a git pull with
Yeah. So you are probably following along. So just git check out that file. Week 7 Snowman source words.
Should I CD all the way to it?
You should. It's going to be easier. CD week 7 Snowman. And then git checkout. Now it's going to be just source. You can git pull again. It'll tell you. Yeah, so just git checkout. Well, the following untracked files, working tree over in my Snowman source. Just try git checkout. And then inside of here, just do source, space source. SRC. Yeah, no, just SRC. Sorry.
No, sorry.
I say the word. Do an ls here? What? Go back a directory. Do an ls here. Go into Snowman, CD Snowman. Do an ls here. Git checkout, space source. Just trash that directory, trash space source. Rm space -r space source.
Trash is a plugin, right?
Yeah, it's a brew install. Now do a git pull. I think we'll be in good shape. Whoa. What is going
He
on?
was having weird problems.
Q-
this weekend.
Q to quit. Q to quit. Go into the tab 1 to the left. Cool. Colon WQ. You're in Vim somewhere. Say no. Press enter. Colon Q exclamation mark. That means quit forcibly. Cool. Go into your other tab where you started and git pull. You have not concluded your merge. No. Git status. Git space status. Okay. Scroll. Can you make this window a little bigger so we can see more? No. There we go.
It's begun.
Okay. Scroll up a little bit. Whoa.
That's odd.
Yeah, you have a lot of like Okay. All conflicts. Okay. Just type git space commit. Press enter. Colon WQ. Now git pull. What? Swap already exists.
Just re-click just plug everything.
Whoa. No, let's figure this out real quick. Just do an capital E. Colon WQ. Git pull again. Let's have somebody else drive for a while, because I don't want to mess up our repository. I'll come and figure out what's going on with your repository in a second.
Sorry about that.
No, that sorry we'll take.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not sure what's going on there. Okay, cool. So did anybody else want to volunteer? If not, it's gonna rotate around.
I'll do it.
Okay, I heard it. I heard it, and I'll do it.
Yeah, here.
Come on, I trying to follow along. I added this to my Snowman in the homework file, and I don't see where the error is. There it is. Knew it was something easy.
So Gabe, are you setting up? Okay.
You didn't have to say anything.
So what do we think? Do we want to work on? So we have the interface, but we don't have any of the behavior. Right? We don't have selecting a word from the list. We don't have clicking buttons. Does the group have a feel for which direction? We're kind of at a fork in the road, right? We have our static user interface, but we don't have it doing anything yet. So now it's time to start making it dynamic.
Even with trying to generate a random word in the call.
Yeah, that's probably where I would go. If we went with the buttons, we could start that. But eventually, the reason we're picking the buttons is to try and match letters in the word. So it probably makes sense to start with the random word. Yeah. Because you probably created the folder with a capital S. You've got lowercase s's. It's saying Snowman and Snowman. Match the corresponding on disk. Snowman, source Snowman. I don't think you're in the right directory here, because every time I'm saving this, this isn't updating. I don't think your yarn start is correct. Let's see, cool. All right, so let's work on picking a random word. Right, we kind of decided that the next thing we're going to do is work on picking a random word. So we have our. Is it blurry again, or is it me? Okay, I will talk to Jason and Mark about it. They know this predicament more than I do. Sorry about the blurriness.
No sorry.
Yes, no sorries. So let's take a look at our words JSON just to see what our words are. So that looks like an array of words. Cool. So I always like to look at the shape of the data when I'm working with a JSON file or an API. And what I mean is, how is it nested? What kinds of things are there? Is it a JSON object that has keys that I have to navigate? Is it an array of things? Is it an array of objects? Is it an object that has arrays built in? Like, spending time with this is important. So let's go ahead and import this words JSON into our app so we can work with it. So in our app JSX.
Oh,
Sure.
JSX.
Yeah, app JSX. let's at the top, let's import that words JSON at the very top. So let's import, and then since it's capital words, let's import words. So this is not as a string, so this is as a symbol. So import capital words, the variable, from /words.json. Capital words.json. So I like to check stuff along the way and make sure that my understanding is correct. So I like to, right now, I want to see, is words, the variable, what I expect it to be. So the way I would check that is inside of the render function, before I do the return, let's just console log capital W words. So if we save this and go look in our console, hopefully we'll see an array of words. Hey, 1,024 words. Oh, there's that 1,024 number again. Right? There's our words. Right? So we have a list of words. Well, what do the instructions say? We need an what? We want one random word. Right? So somewhere we had a little snippet that lets us grab a random number. Right? Since we have this array, if you bring that array back up in the console.
Okay.
Right? We see that it's just an array, right? We know that arrays we access via an index. So we want a number somewhere between 0 and 1023. So again, I like to cheat and make things easy. Right where we have console.log words, above that, let's make a variable where our randomly selected word is going to be.
Still inside the
Yeah,
render.
inside the render. So let's say const random word. Equals words, capital W words. Not instead of a string.
Not a string.
No, just the variable, right? So
Oh, right,
words
right,
is our
right.
variable. Bracket. Square bracket.
Oh, okay.
Somebody give me a random number between 0 and 1023 inclusive. 730.
732.
Sure, that works. Now, instead of console.logging words, let's console.log random words. So get rid of the words, where we're console logging words. Let's just console log random word. Let's see what we get out. Rustily. Rustily. I am feeling rustily this morning. I only slept for like 4 hours. Cool. So this gave us a random word from this list, right? But we know from before that we can find a random number between 0 and something with our math.random times number. So instead of 723, let's replace that with a little bit of JavaScript. So go to the 723 and do capital math.random, open and close parentheses, times, right? And we know that the list is 1,024. No, sorry, outside of the parentheses. So math.random is going to give us a number between 0 and 1. We want to scale that up to however many words are in our words array. So how do we? Yeah. So instead of hard-coding to 1024, what could we put here? Words.length.
Oh, right.
Words.length. Words.length.
So that's going to pick a random index
Yes.
and then return that. Okay,
Yep.
cool.
So if we save that, hopefully now instead of getting rustily, we'll get undefined and undefined and undefined. Why did we get undefined? Oh, because we're getting a floating point number. Yeah, we have to do floor. Yeah. So surround all of that with parentheses.
Everything inside of brackets?
Yes. And we've got to do math. We got to do math floor for this. So it's I think just calling dot floor, right? Oops. Undo. Transy. And then at the end of that, dot floor. And I think with parentheses. And actually set a parentheses to call the floor function.
nice.
No.
That's exciting.
Yeah, dot floor is not a function. I think it's math.floor at the beginning. So get rid of the dot floor at the end.
Floor at the beginning? Okay.
Yeah, so get rid of the floor and that at the beginning, before that parentheses, math.floor. I think you got a capital in there. It's so
Yeah, I
blurry I
did.
can't see. Cool, harping. Stop harping. We're just writing JavaScript. Reload. Also, Command R is reload. Hefting. Cool. All right, we're getting random words, right? We're getting a random word. We don't have it doing anything yet, but we have a random word. Let's replace these LIs here with underscores that come driven by our random word, right? So we want one letter, one underscore for every letter in that word, right? So how would we get every letter in the word? Split, right? And then what's that going to give us back?
An array of letters.
And what do we know we can do with arrays to turn them into, we can map them. So at the very beginning, before that first LI, let's put a little bit of JSX braces. Mustache braces, yep. And then just give us a blank line so we have some space to work. Cool. So we're going to take random word. We're going to take our random word and we're going to split it. Dot split. Open and close parentheses. That's going to give us back an array of letters. And then, after that, we're going to dot map that. And then inside of parentheses, it's going to give us what? What would we call this? We call this a letter. Right? And then arrow function, inside of the parentheses. Arrow function, inside the parentheses. Curlies, yep. And then we're going to return what? Not letter. Li with an underscore. Return an Li with an underscore.
Do you have any parentheses there?
You do not. We could, but we don't. If it was a more complicated little bit of Java, HTML, we would. That's simple enough. We could just do that. Cool. And then I think we need to close. No, I think we're good. Cool. Save that. Cool. So we should now have like 14 of these underscores, right? Do we have a bunch of underscores? No, we have. How many? We just have 7, right? Let's delete these LIs. Let's delete these LIs, the extra ones that were not hard, that are hard coded, and reload the page and see what happens. So save this and let's see what we get. Did that refresh?
I didn't save it.
We're only getting 1. I bet this split is not giving us what we want. We do, but we may need to put a single empty space inside of that split. Inside of the parentheses for split, put a blank string, just an open and close string.
Oh, I got you.
Open and close string. Save that. There we go. Yeah. Split without an argument does some weird things. So we're saying split on the blank space, so it gives us back every character. So just as an experiment, get rid of the underscore and replace that with braces letter. So find the underscore, and instead of having the underscore, put braces letter. So this is me checking again, like, hey, are we going to get what we expect? What we should get is a word, right? So if we reload this again, do we get a different word? Just reload the page, Command R. Right? Right. Right. The way I would have debugged that, by the way, if I didn't know, is I would have done console.log randomword.split and saw what that returned. So you notice, like, when we start to chain things along, it's harder to get everything right, which is why when I'm going super slow or I'm taking a step back, what in this random word split map thing failed? Well, I know my random word is correct because we console logged that. I would have then console log random word dot split open and close and seen that did not give me back an array of letters. Oh, okay, cool. Let me go diagnose that. So let's go back to the underscore because that's what we're supposed to have there. Why is this localhost what? Oh, because he probably had that image
yeah,
or
I had
something before.
yeah, I had
Adventure.
soundboard open before.
Yeah. It doesn't matter because React Router is not loaded, so we can do / anything. Cool. So we have a random word and we're displaying the number of underscores based on that. So let's go back and look quickly at the, so we kind of have this part done, we kind of have this part done, right? Now, when we get the letter and we click a button, all the instances of that letter are revealed at their corresponding positions in the word. Cool. So let's go put a click handler on that very first button. On that very first button, let's put a click handler on that. And then inside of braces, right? What are we gonna call this method?
Curly braces or no?
Curly braces. So I'm gonna say brackets for squares,
Okay.
parentheses for round, and braces for mustaches. So we want a handler, right? So what's the format for writing a handler here? This dot something, right? This dot, yeah. This dot, underscore. What are we calling this? They just clicked on a letter, player choice, chose a letter, handle a letter. What do we like?
Letter choice.
Letter choice. Cool. Let's go define that letter choice method above render. So here we don't do the const part because we're just defining a method inside of this class. So letter choice is a function. So letter choice equals a function that takes an event and is an arrow function. Every React handler you write is going to be kind of like this. And there's an arrow function.
Prettier will take it.
Yeah, pretty hard to take them away. So let's just console log some little string that tells us we did it. Console.log something that's we can find. Console.log some funny string of your choice. It works. It worked. Cool. Save that. Let's see if we can click on the letter. On the A. It worked. Cool. So now we could put this on click on all the other letters, but what's going to be the challenge?
Differentiating which letters.
Yeah, which letter did we click? Yeah. So we want a way to know which letter was clicked, and we want to be able to handle those. So let's pull out a component for that button. So what are we going to call this component? So it's it might be button, but I think button is a little bit too generic. No, it's not the chosen letter because it's going to represent any of the letters we can choose.
So letter.
Right? Yeah, we can. Well, so what makes this a letter versus this being a letter? The button versus the underscore. So maybe like letter button might be good. It tells us what it is and what it does. Let's make this a React component. We're going to create the file and make this a React component. letter button, letter button. And then inside of here, let's just take one of those sample buttons that we had and place it inside of the render.
Just the button or the LI?
For now, let's just try taking the button and see what happens. Goes inside there, paste, cool. Let's move our letter choice method from app into the component. Let's delete letter choice from here. No, letter choice.
Oh, wait.
That's the handler. Let's delete that handler from the app and throw it down inside of here.
Above the render?
Mhm. Nope, above the render,
Above the render.
right? Because it's another function. Render and letter choice are siblings. They should be at the same level of indentation. So let's go back to the app and let's replace our use of button on click letter choice. So replace that with letter button and then not forget to import it. Let's put a letter button here. Oops, that's not right. Letter button. Is it better there?
That's where the yes. See what he's
Okay, cool. We got it. That needs to not be a chain anymore. Okay, so we just put a letter button in here, and what's going on here? Why is that showing up in red? Can you, yeah. Oh, capital I import on line 5.
Oh.
So like the underscore red, like syntax erroring kind of stuff is a big thing. Cool. There we go. And if we still click on our A, does it say it worked? Cool. So well, we want to know which letter was clicked, right? So how would we tell letter button which letter it represents? Yeah, and how do we give components values? Do we call those things props? So let's give letter button a prop on line 21. Let's give it a prop. Letter. Letter equals A. Cool. Now inside of letter button JSX, let's save that. Inside of here, instead of console log it worked, what can we console log to see which letter we gave it? This dot props dot letter. This dot props dot letter. Let's save this. And click on the A.
Why didn't you put it as a check?
Because we don't have state yet. Hey, once we have state, then we need a constructor. Hey, there's our A. Let's go back to app.jsx. Now, what we would do is we could replace that with B, C, D, right? But we know eventually we need this to iterate, right? We don't really want to like type out 26 buttons like this. Let's turn this into iteration so we can generate these components dynamically. Yeah, so we want a list of all these letters. So we would put these in what kind of variable? An array. So let's make an array above the return. Above the return. The const letters equals to an array where there's a quote A, right? And then a quote B, and a quote C, and a quote D, D.
Have we defined numbers?
We have not. So all we're doing now is is we're making a list of all the letters in the alphabet so we can map over them. And we're going to take this list of letters and turn it into all of our letter buttons.
So before it was just like kind of almost like grouping it into like leaving it the blank LIs were the letters essentially.
Yes. Yeah, we manually created buttons. Mike created us 26 buttons with Emmett. Yeah.
Is there a way that, so if we type like A through Z, it's like that quadrant, and then two string split.
Yeah. You could have done, he's still typing, you could do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, right? Split. Like that.
Yes.
Yep. You can also do array.new 26. New array. Wrong language, Gavin. Right. Let's go like this. I forget the thing. JavaScript range. So, hey, look, I've looked this up before. This little snippet right here. This is what I want. All right. I think we even looked at this before. Like, hey, and we can map that into. Will this work? Nope. String car code. That's how I would do it. Weird, huh? Right. I just happen to know that 65 is a lowercase, is an uppercase A.
Why is it 65?
Because that's the ASCII code for 65 for A. If you look at the ASCII table. Right. Right. This ASCII table. But if I didn't know that, then maybe I would have done A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, so forth, split. Like that. Or eventually here, what we've done here is just made an array of letters, right? This works, right? And is explicit A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Cool. So now let's map this. Right, so down where we have our letter button, let's map this. So before that LI, so between, yep. Oh yeah, you got some extra spaces in there. Cool. So before that first LI, let's put a braces, a blank line. We're going to take letters, and we're going to map this. Right, and then it gets a letter arrow function inside. This is again why I like having plural and singular variable names, because that makes this stuff. Yeah. So let's return. And here, yes, we are going to have parentheses. And then let's grab that 53 through 55, that LI, and just move it up in there. That LI, just delete that from there, cut it, and paste it inside of there. Undo, or what? Command Z, and then, oops, cut. And then click, and paste. Cool. Let's just delete all the other LIs. What time check this? Yeah. Cool. Let's save this. And what we have now, a whole bunch of A's, right? So let's replace that hard-coded A with letter. So we need to turn this into JSX curly braces. Nope, so get rid of the quotes. The quotes go away. And instead we get brackets, sorry, braces. Nope, just letter. Here's our letter. Cool. We still get ah. Did you save? Let's go look in. Let's go look in app. Letter button. The letter is letter. Return that li. That letter is letter. Let's go into letter button JSX and see what we have inside of there. Oh, we just have the A here. So see that A? Let's make that be this dot top dot letter.
So curly bracket.
Curly bracket, you got it. This dot props dot letter. There's our letter. Now let's click on some of these. B, H, cool. We can click on letters. So now we have random words and we have letter clicks. Cool. Let's fix up that error. So we've got that error. Each child or array has to have a key. So let's go back into app.jsx. And any place where we have a map and then a component, we need a key. So we're going to need a key here. And we're going to on line 44, and we're going to need a key on line 51. So inside of that li,
Inside the
yes,
actual
inside of the actual li, we're going to need a key equals open and close, no spaces please, open and close braces. We're going to need some kind of unique identifier. We might try and use letter, but letter is not good enough because there might be two of the same letter in a word, right?
Yeah.
So we need another identifier. Let's add after letter on line 43 to the left of the arrow up here, put parentheses and index. So, nope, sorry, parentheses at the beginning.
I see.
Okay, one more command Z. Yeah, around letter. And then after the R, comma index. Close parentheses. Sorry, inside of those parentheses, yeah, index. Cool, now we can use index as our key. Who told you that? So if you have a better choice, yes. If you don't have a better choice, no. Right? Well, what other choice do we have here to identify that particular spot? If we use letter, it may not be unique. Right? If we have a word like hello, there's two L's. And what we're trying to guarantee is that that key is unique. So here, down here, here we can use letter as the key. Why? Yes, because we're going A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. These letters here are unique. So on line 51, our key can be the letter. So on 51, let's just put key equals letter.
51?
On 51. So see this
I see, yeah.
this component also needs a key. We usually put the key first. Just as a, I like to put the key first, just as a hint. Yeah, just because it's required by React and it gets out of the way, then I know that that's React's business and everything else is mine.
P equals index?
Nope, letter.
Letter?
Right, because here, letter comes from letters, and letters is A, B, C, D, E, F. They're automatically unique, so that's good enough. Letter. So save that, and hopefully our errors go away. On line 50. Oh, sorry, the key's got to go on the LI. Yes, it can still be letter.
If you put letters, would it be a problem?
It would, because letters is going to be the array. Letters is the entire array. Cool. Why don't we save this and commit it, and then we'll pass the baton. Cool. So what's next in our... So we have it clicking. We have it clicking a random word, displaying blank spaces, displaying a list of letters that are clickable. When a player guesses a letter and clicks the button, all the instances of that letter are revealed at their corresponding position in the word. The button becomes disabled as has already been guessed. I think we have a volunteer.
I thought we were going down the line. I
Oh.
was ready for it.
Okay, cool. That works. I like that. I like that plan. Ooh, what's going on here? What? Why do I have you? Whoa.
Nice.
Oh, I had no idea that could even be a thing.
That's push downcast.
We did three at the same time?
Probably. You can do all of you at the same time.
Let's test getting computer's power.
And that person tells a friend, and that person tells a friend. You're all probably too young for that commercial.
You guys seem to take the look at.
Not many, dude. Not many.
You want to do one anyway, right?
I do. So going to week 7, Snowman, and then yarn install.
Is there a better way to navigate? If I do change directory week -07 slash.
Yep, you can do week 7 /thing /thing. Yep. And then have even fancier shells that have fancier ways of navigating. We got yarn start. Split our screens and we'll be in business.
Where's the one that Jason, he doesn't use, he uses Z-Shell.
I also use Z shell. Yeah, it's got some fancy features that are handy. We used to throw Z shell on students on the very first day. With like, there's awesome Z shell plugins and whatnot. We just found that it got kind of crazy. But if y'all want to install Z shell at some point, we can do an afternoon of like let's install Z shell for everybody. Yeah.
Can I use that?
Maybe I know that Windows has the Windows like compatibility layer for stuff, and Bash you can use. I don't know about Z shell. You could definitely use Bash, which is what we're using now on the Mac. And I think you could probably use Z shell. Cool. So what did we say? The next thing we want to be able to do is when a player guesses a letter, all the instances of that letter are revealed and the button becomes disabled. And then we display the snowman image that corresponds to the number of letters. So here are 2 things we're going to do now based on when the player guesses a letter. We're going to reveal some letters corresponding to the position in the word that we're looking for, and we're going to disable if it's already been guessed. Which of those 2 sounds harder to you? Position and disable. Yeah, I think this one is a little bit harder. Because we have to like deal with all the instances of the letter. Whereas in the second one, we're just going to disable it if it's already been guessed. So let's work on the second one first, and then come back and work on the instances of the letter. So, are you working on some styling?
Maybe.
Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, let's like flexbox some things and. Yeah, we can do some styling. So, I feel you. So did Jason do some like, you're missing a dot there, I think, for your class. So when Jason was doing code demos for you, was he like just diving in and getting the styling all like amazing and perfect and awesome? Yeah. I love watching him do that. It makes me so happy.
When he
Yeah.
does the inline styling for components, it makes me realize like you have to use really good CSS. Because
Yeah.
it won't, if you spell it wrong, it just won't do the thing.
Yeah.
This will yell at you. When you're doing it inline, it's just like, okay, well, that's not going to work. So,
Yeah, is random word your UL?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so are you trying to get rid of the list style? So you could probably just do that inside of the display flex one. Yeah. The style none. That should be enough, I think. There we go. And then maybe put some like right margin. Oh no, don't do margin. Do space between. Justify content. Yeah, because reflecting. Nice. You're missing a semicolon at the end of space between. Cool. Yeah, let's do the same thing for the buttons.
Can you just have left side on that?
Yeah, he could, but just for all of the ULs.
Right.
You could just do ULLI. So you want to do that on, let's go look at your, so if you go back and look at the app, yep. So we've got a UL for that. So just put a class name on the UL on line 47. Ugh, that annoys me. Yeah. I love watching Jason like style things because he's just so darn good at it. I think you said letter buttons. Oh, the letter buttons. Okay. Flex. Yeah, letter buttons. Flex. Yeah, and that's just like, I think that's a very good description. Like, he's just been doing it so long that he naturally sees all of the CSS. Yeah. And maybe also do some space between, see what that looks like. Ugh. No. Yeah, still gonna. Yeah. He's got the flex wrap. And you got an extra justify content down there.
Yeah, I was going to just
Oh, I gotcha.
with
Oh, gotcha.
What is space around?
oh,
Yeah, so now that margin is on the entire letter buttons. You want to put the margin and the padding on the LIs that are inside. So make a new selector, letter buttons LI, dot letter buttons LI, and then put the margin on the LIs inside. There we go. Yeah, so this is where like I would start to use some of the flex options to like control how many things are inside, right? Cool.
at least all the buttons and the snowman and everything is there.
Yeah. Oops. Yes, you can't space between these. You can only space between the things that. So the justify content on 18 doesn't do anything. No, I don't think so. Cool. Let's just leave it here for now. Cool. If I were Jason, I'd spend more time working on that. Cool. So let's make it so that when we choose one of these letters, they become disabled. So before we do this, let's hard code this to see what we're going to do first, right? If all of a sudden we're going to have some of these buttons being disabled, let's go into letter button JSX, and let's see what we have to do to our HTML to make these disabled. So on the button, we have before the on click. Let's say disabled equals disabled with a D equals string disabled. Let's save. Are all those buttons disabled now? They are. We shouldn't be able to click on them. So somehow we need to toggle this disabled status on or off. Right? Yeah. So now we could maintain this with state. This is one way we could do it. We could maintain an internal state of this button to tell whether it's clicked or not. I'm going to propose a different approach. Let's have the app track which letters have been clicked on, right? Eventually, we're going to need to know which letters have been clicked on in order to update these guesses here. So if the button keeps track of which letters have been pressed, it's going to be more difficult to do this part with the underscores. So let's have the app.jsx keep track of which letters have been pressed. So if the app is going to keep track of something that changes, what do we use to keep track of those things? State. So now our app needs state. Let's add state to our app. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do a constructor, props, super props. Constructor, props, super props. And instead of that, let's do this.state equals. And we're going to make an object. So curly braces. And we're going to keep track of the letters that have been chosen. Maybe we call that letters chosen. Let's make that equal to what kind of thing? An empty array. Yep. Let's save that. So that is not going to be an equals, it's going to be a colon.
Oh, yes.
Because we're working with an object. Save that. So here's our list of letters that are chosen. Let's put a couple letters in there just to play around. So somebody give me a random letter. A. Put a string A in there. A string A. Give me one more. J. Cool. There we go. So there's our two letters that are chosen. So we want the A and the J to be disabled. We want everything else to not be disabled. Cool. So let's scroll down and take a look at where our letter buttons are. So inside of here, right, we want our letter button to be disabled if it's in there and not if it's right? So we can have a disabled prop. That's good. Yep. So we want disable to be true if what? If letter is one of the letters inside of letters chosen. This is the point where you all should start to get comfortable working in the console, in the browser console, to be like, how am I gonna do this, right? So inside of this console, just bring up console. Oh, you're trying to bring it up larger. Yeah. It should. What's going on? Cool. That's good enough. Cool. Let's just make a little array. Const letters chosen equals an array that has an A and a J inside of it. A string A and a string J. Right? Cool. And let's just do, so we want to know whether or not there is, the letter that we're working with is inside of that array. And this is the hint that Jason gave you all in Slack this weekend, right? So go into Slack and let's look at Jason's hint that he gave us. Oh, you don't have Slack open, sorry. So Jason gave us a really good hint. And if he didn't give us this hint, one of the things that we could look at is we could look at the documentation for array, or we could think of the various methods that we know. So he says, cough, cough. Let's look at this JavaScript reference. Hey, bump up the font one or two here so we can all see it. So there's a method on array called includes. And it returns true or false if the thing you pass it is inside of the array that you called it on. So look at the example on line 6. Var pets equals cat, dog, bat. And if we pets.includes cat, we get true. If we pets.include at, we get false. Right? So if we ask our letters chosen, if it includes, so do letters chosen, dot includes, and then inside of parentheses, let's pass it a string A. We should get back what? True. And if we go up arrow and we say B, or P, whatever, we get false. Cool. So we have an array. We have an array and we're asking if it has a letter in it. Letters chosen in our code is what? Letters chosen in our code is, oh, nope, all the way up to the top. Yeah, but how do we get to it? This dot state dot letters chosen. So inside of that disabled equals this dot state dot letters chosen includes, and what goes inside the parentheses? Letter. Cool. Let's save that. Okay, now we're passing in this property, disabled. Let's go use it inside letter button. So instead of disabled being hard-coded to disabled, get rid of the hard-codedness and turn that into what? Props disabled. Yep. Cool. What's disabled? A and J. Right? So if we go back and change that state, if we go back into app and we change that state to have a couple other letters in there, we could, but I'm not sure why we would. We're only using that letters to generate the big letters. Cool. So now if we had some way of updating the state, what would happen? As we click on these letters, they would go away, right? They would disable themselves. So let's go look at letter button. Right? This is where the click is happening. We need to tell the app, the parent component, that something changed. Right? So this is the trick of React. We need to tell a parent something happened. The button needs to tell the state something happened. Sorry, the app something happened. Which means we need to pass down a function that comes from the app. The parent needs to have the function that says, hey, a letter was chosen, and pass that function down, right? Because events flow up. So in the app.js, let's add a function there called letter chosen. It's going to be a sibling of the constructor in the render. So letter chosen equals letter single chosen equals a function, an arrow function, yep. So it's going to equal and then parentheses. So in this case, it's not going to take an event. Open and close, and then an arrow. Yep. And now what we want to do is we want to add something to this letter's chosen. Oh, how are we going to do this without showing you all the immutable state? There's a thing called immutable JS that we're not going to show you just yet. Let's do this. Let's have letter chosen take the letter that we've chosen. So inside of the parentheses, we're going to take an argument that is a letter that was chosen. And let's just console.log that letter. Console.log. Sorry, get my pointer out of the way. Cool. So now we have this function here that console logs the letter. But we want to be able to have that be called when our letter button clicks, which means we have to pass it as a prop to that component. So down below, where we call letter button, we need to pass another prop to this, being the letter chosen function. So letter chosen equals this dot letter chosen. Now inside of our letter button, JSX, instead of console logging, we can just call that function. So instead of console log, that part was good. Instead of console logging, let's just call this.props.letterChosen. Nope, we're going to call a function. So this.props.letterChosen is the function our app gave us. This.props.letter is the letter the app gave us. We now need to tell the app, hey app, the function that you gave me to tell you when I've chosen a letter, I'm going to call you now, giving you the letter you gave me. So instead of the console log, this.props.letter chosen. So get rid of console log. Note just the words console and the words log. This.props.letter chosen. And we're done. So this.props.letter chosen is the function the parent gave us that says, hey, when you choose a letter, this is the function I want you to call. This.props.letter was the letter that the app gave us that is the current letter for the current button. So all we're doing here is saying, when we click on a button, call the app's function that says you chose a letter and give them back the letter that they chose. So we've done this right. Now we can click on those letters, right? And we should get a console log, right? So now if we had a way of adding those letters to the array in the app, we could have those automatically disabled. So go back to the app.js. And now we have to modify letters chosen. We don't just want it to console log. We want to add things to letters chosen. So here, let's do it the hacky way. So how do we add something to the end of an array? Push. So let's do this.state.letters chosen .push. What are we going to push into it? Letter. Yep. Now we need to change the state. So instead of console log, let's call this.setState. And then inside of that, instead of letter, a new object. So delete letter. Changes the state of the current component. So we're changing the state. So we're going to say letters chosen, colon. Letters chosen. So we're going to change letters chosen. And what it's going to be equal to now is this.state.letters chosen. So we're pushing this letter onto the end of the state, and then we're updating the state. Whoa! Letters chosen. There's a better way of doing this that I'll show you a little later. Too many brackets. At the end of the line, that bracket is one too many. So now as we click around on our letters, they should disable themselves. It's giving us a new word each time. Oh, because we have our random word in render. Right? So now that we have state, where should that random word go? Yeah, that random word now needs to go into our state. So cut that from there and go put it inside of our state. Nope, it's going to go inside of the state, just like letters chosen is a state. Our random word is a state. So rather than be a variable now, get rid of the const part, random word colon, okay? And then down below, instead of console log random word, this.state.random word. Nope, so the console log is still good. So we made random word from a local variable into a state, because we don't want it to change every time you render. You need a comma at the end of letters chosen. So now we should not get random word. What's it saying on line what? 56. Oh, this.state.random. Right, because we moved that from a local variable. Right, so now as we click around, it won't change. Right, it's just going to log the random word each time. Right, and as we're clicking around, we can get rid of that console log the random word. Yes, well we'll put it back in a minute. You can put it at the end of the constructor if you want to cheat. Cut that line there and paste it at before line 14. Cool. And we don't need it on line 24 anymore. Because we'll have our cheat code in one place. Cool. So now we have it that as we click on buttons, what are we doing? We're telling the letter button. Let's go back to letter button real quick. Letter button gets two properties. The function to call when you click on the button that says you've chosen a letter, and the letter that is this letter's display, right? What letter are we showing in this button? When we click, we're calling handle letter choice. All we're doing is saying, hey, function in the app, I'm calling you and I'm giving you back the letter that I am. It's the responsibility of the app, if you go to app.jsx, it's the responsibility of the app to say, hey, cool, someone chose a letter. I'm going to push that letter at the end of the list of letters and update my state. So the buttons are disabled. We scroll down, right? We disable the buttons by saying, hey, the buttons are disabled if the letters chosen includes the letter that we're iterating over. Questions?
Just one question, when we go into the state and click the button, should we update the letters chosen, or is it doing that?
It is. If you scroll back up to the very first function, right? Letter chosen takes a letter, and it says, hey, we're going to push that letter onto the end of our state and update the state. There's a better way of doing this, but I'm just going to use this for now.
So we just won't see it up there in the letter chosen. That was part of
We have not done that part yet.
Oh,
All we've done so far is disable the buttons based on whether or not they're chosen.
Is that set state letter chosen? Is that pretty much, is that doing anything right now? Or
It is.
No.
It's replacing this list of letters chosen.
So why are all buttons getting grayed out?
Because only the ones that we've clicked on will be grayed out. So click on B.
Right.
Right.
Only defined AJ, B, C, C.
Those are the ones we start with. Make letters chosen empty, like we started out with.
Okay.
And now all the letters will be lit. And now as we click on letters, they go away. Cool. Well, now what do we have to do? Handle the underscores. Right? We have to handle the underscores. So here we have the underscore. We want it to be an underscore when? When that letter is not chosen, and we want it to be an underscore when it isn't, right? So how will we know whether or not to display an underscore or display the letter? We could, except random word is just the word, right? The random word is just our word. So we could use includes here, but we don't know if includes works on a string. So let's see if includes works on a string. So do a string, I don't know, salient, because that's the word that's here, salient, and see if you call .includes and pass it a letter, like an E. Yep, it does. So let's replace the underscore with another case of includes. So does this.state.random random word dot includes what? Letter. So this is going to return a Boolean, right? True or false? So let's use our friend the ternary. So inside that brace, question mark, what are we going to show if it's true? The letter. So letter. No parentheses. No, just letter. Colon. What are we going to show if it's false? Underscore. Right, inside of a string. I don't know. Yeah, now let's put some spaces. Oh, it did it for us automatically. Cool. So we don't want the random word to scroll back to the left. So we only want to show this. We only want to show this not if the random word includes it. It's if our array of chosen letters includes it. So instead of this.state.random word includes, it's letters chosen. So let's play. Our word is anytime. So click on a P. Click on an A. Click on a something. L, N, Y, T, I, M, E. Nope. Not in this game. Cool. Right? Yay, it works. So what's the last thing we have to do?
Update the player count.
Update the snowman. Cool. Let's go into our app at the very top. Back into app.jsx. Cool. Scroll to the top. Let's import all the snowmen. So import snowman 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So just repeat that line to what? 6 more times? 1, 2, 3. Whoa.
Import the whole file.
No, you can't. I don't think we can import the whole directory. So we have 0 through 7, right? Snowmen, is that right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7. And then on the right-hand side, step 0. So the 0 is on the right-hand side. There we go. Fancy.
I'm gonna try.
Wow. Oh, here it goes. He's gonna do it. He's gonna do the thing with the thing. There it is. Nice. Hey. Yes. Nice.
Laziness.
Oh God! Oh man!
That was awesome.
I really did.
That wins the best keyboarding of the day award.
All right, so
He's gonna-
command option up.
Command option up. Shift. Then he's copying.
Oh.
Then he's right arrowing. And he's shift selecting or deleting. And basing. Hey! For the win. Awesome. Cool. So let's also inside of our constructor, let's make a new array. So after super props always has to be first.
What did the super props do?
It calls the parent, it calls component, and passes the props to React. So see how app extends component? Component is our parent. Component comes from React. We're telling, hey, my parent class, you also get a copy of the props. Because React needs to get a copy of them too. So this.snowman equals men, plural, equals, you're missing a W, equals an array. The first element of the array is going to be snowman 0. Mm-hmm. The second one's going to be snowman 1, so forth and so on. So we're going to make an array of all of the snowman images.
Starting to make a little bit of
Yeah. Snowman 1, snowman 2, snowman 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Cool, save that. Cool. So now, see where our snowman, scroll down to our image. And instead of putting in down below, instead of putting snowman 0, do this dot snowman bracket 0. Bracket 0. Yep, save that. Change the 0 to a 1. Change the 1 to a 2. Right? So now we have an array of all the snowman images. And if we access the right one, right, we get the right snowman. So all we need to know is how many letters were chosen, right? So what we could do is we could count them up. So let's make a new function. So that's inside of the letter chosen function. You're inside of the letter chosen function. You want to be outside of the letter chosen function. Yeah, that's a good spot. Let's call this correct guess count equals a function. Yep, and define the function. So we want to count how many guesses there are that are correct. So if we scroll down, we kind of have that right here. This random word split map. If we grab this code that's inside of our braces there, right? Grab that line. That's good. And let's paste it inside of there. And get rid of the opening JSX bit that we had on line 34, that very first brace. Right? So we don't want to map. We're looking for how many letters matched. Nope. So if we have an array, so let's think we always got to come back to think about the data that we're working with. What is this state random word split? An array of letters. We want to get back how many of these would be displayed as a letter or as an underscore. No. So we start with a big array. We end up with a smaller array. We end up with a big array. We end up with some portion of a smaller array. That is filter, right? So we're going to filter. So you already have the function right there. You've already got. What's that? No. So sort is only based on order, not inclusion. So remember, filter has to return what? A Boolean, whether or not we're gonna include this or not. So inside of our braces, we return the truth of whether or not this letter should be displayed or not displayed. We already have that logic, right? It's this dot letters chosen. Letters chosen includes the letter. Right? And then I think you need to close the, that's fine there. Right here, I think you need to close, something's missing. One more curly bracket and one more close parentheses. The other way. First close. Yeah, let me save that. There we go. So this will give us the. Let's return this from this function. So before the this, put the keyword return. So remember, filter is going to give us what? We start with a big array. We end up with a smaller array. But we don't care about the array. We care about what? How many? So if we have an array, how do we find out how many things are inside of the array? Length. So add a dot length on the end here. So let's make the website a little smaller so you can see this whole thing. Cool. So we take our random word and we split it to get an array of the letters that are in our random word. And then we filter that list of letters based on whether or not that letter is in the letters we've already chosen. This will give us back every letter from the random word that is already chosen. Right, so we start with the big word hello, and if letters chosen just has L, we should get back L and L. If our letters chosen has E and L, we should get back E, L, L. We just ask for the length of that to get the count of how many. So yeah, we can do that console.log, but we have to do it inside our render. So inside of render, let's console.log this dot guess correct guess count. Correct guess count and call the function. So that's going to log the function. If you put the press, yeah, now it's going to tell us how many guesses are correct. We have a syntax error somewhere. Let's see. Open, close, filter, open, close, arrow, close. Let's see it. Return this. What is it saying? Oh, this is undefined. Oh, this dot state dot letters chosen. Cool. 0 correct. Yep. So let's click on a correct letter. 1 correct. Click on an incorrect letter. Cool. So let's replace our hard-coded snowman image. That's 7 with what? No, so the snowman was all correct. Right, so undo, 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 undo. Command Z, command, until we get back to having a set. So this .snowman is our array of snowmen. 7 is our hard code. Let's replace the hard code with what? What we just created, which counts how many letters are correct. This dot correct yes count. Right, rather than hard code, now we can call. Nope. So it's not state. It's just a function. It's just a function on this thing. Correct yes count. I'm calling the function. You got it. So 0. We should get yep. Right. Right. Animate the padding on the thing, right? Little dance. Right. But we just went hard coded to dynamic, hard coded to dynamic, right? The trick is in that leap, right? That's where the bits lie. We could continue refactoring this a little bit. We could split the alphabet into its own component. We could pull the snowman into its own component and refactor this a little bit, right? But our app is getting kind of big, right? When we start to have, just go down to the render portion, when we start to have this kind of thing where we're having like looping inside here, right? Maybe we would pull that out into like a board component or something, or
Could we do that just because there's state and all of that?
Sure.
We're dealing with that. So when we pull in the components, not so simple as just
cool.
throwing it in there.
So let's pull the random word into a component. So make a new component, and let's call it yeah, word display. .js, cool. Yeah, JSX. I don't care. Make this a component. Word display. Save that. Go grab the word display from our app. So in our app, let's grab that entire UL. That's the random word. Just the UL. The whole thing. Yep, that whole thing. Cut that in there. And now let's paste it into word display. Get rid of the div. Paste. Cool. So now we don't have state anymore, right? The state is owned by the parent. So everywhere we have state, let's replace that with props. Right? So what props do we need to pass down? The random word and the letters chosen. And we're going to import the word display. So let's use it here. Word display. Oops. There's an autocomplete somewhere. Yeah. With JSX, probably the autocompletes are more complete for React, so it's doing those things. So let's pass in as props. Right? What are the props we need now? We go back to word display. We don't have state anymore. We don't have state random word. We have a props random word. See on line 7, this dot props random word. So let's pass random word down. So random word equals, inside of braces, this dot state dot random word. Random word. Cool. What else did word display need? Letters. It also needs letters chosen, which we're now going to get as props. So let's pass down letters chosen is this dot state dot letters chosen. And then let's import word display at the top. Import yes. Word display from actually includes letters chosen. Primary property includes the one time, so it's probably actually on line 10 is where the error is. Let's go back to the letter. Let's go back to the app. Scroll down to where we have it. Use letters chosen on line 82. You have a letter. No, sorry, that was right. Line 82, letters chosen. Yeah. Cool. So let's play. Cool. Let's pull the snowman image out into its own component. So let's make a new component. Make a new file. Let's call it capital snowman.js. Let's make it a component. Cool. Let's go grab the snowman image from the app. Grab the whole image. Copy that. Okay. And replace the div. Cool. So here we need a couple things. We need the correct guest count. So instead of this, that's going to be this.props, not correct guest count, and not a function anymore. It's just going to be a property. And we need to move the snowman into this file. So let's go back to the app. We go to the very top. Yeah, before we do that, before we do all that, let's grab all those import snowmen. Cut those from here.
Sorry?
Cut them from here and paste them into the snowman. Cool. Now let's add a constructor here. Constructor props, super props. And now let's go back to the app. And then let's take the this.snowman that's in there lines 11 through 19 and move that down into the snowman. Sorry, 10. My bad. 10 through 19. Cut that from there and go put it in the snowman. So we're just moving those images inside. Yep. Cool. So all we did was we moved the imports from the app into the snowman because the app doesn't need them, just the snowman component does now. Right? We have our array of them. And then when we go to use it now, let's go put the import in. Let's go use the snowman. Now if we scroll down to where we were rendering him, he goes above the word display. So let's put the snowman in here. And what property does he take? So let's go look at the snowman and see what property he takes. So he needs the correct guest count. That's going to be his property. It's the only property he takes. So that is going to be equal to JSX braces this dot. Nope, so it's not in the state. It's just a function. Correct guest count. Parentheses. Call. Yep. Cool. Let's extract this UL into an alphabet. Let's make another component. For what?
You made that new item, or new
Probably, but I don't know what it is. Alphabet. Cool. Alphabet. Let's paste that implementation in there instead of that div. Cool. So what does this take? Right now it's using the letters. So the letters needs to come in here. What just happened? Oh, you moved. Okay. So we need the letters that are from our other code. So let's go back into the app. Go back and grab those letters that are above. See all those letters? Take that const letters and move it into our alphabet. And that goes before the return. Yep. Cool. So what else do we have in here? Scroll down. We have this dot state dot letters chosen, so that needs to become this dot props dot letters chosen. And we have this dot letter chosen being a function, that needs to now come to us as well. This dot props dot letter chosen. Cool. So now we need to go import that and then send those two props down to it. Import the alphabet. From the alphabet. And then let's add the alphabet below the word display. Oops. One more down. There we go. So alphabet. So what are the two things that it has? Just to refresh our memory. It's the letters, letter chosen and letters chosen. So letter chosen is a function. So back in the app, letter chosen equals this dot letter chosen, right? Because it's just a function. It's not a state. Letter chosen. Now letters chosen comes from our state, right? This is the array of the letters that are chosen. So that's this dot state dot letters chosen. Because we're giving the function to the child. We're not calling the function. We're just saying, hey, child component, when a letter is chosen, this is what I want you to call. We're getting an error. Letter chosen is not defined in alphabet. No. Oh, letter buttons. Yes, we need to import the letter button here. And we need to get rid of it in the app. It's no longer required in the app. We can just cut that line from there and move it into the alphabet. Cool. And things should still work. Hey, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Praise, yay. So let's go look at our app now. Cool. Let's go look at our render. Let's get rid of the console log. So let's get rid of the console log on 32. We don't need that anymore. And let's look at the render whole thing on display. Just scroll up. Cool. What is our app path? It has a snowman or word display on alphabet. Those are the big things we determined at the beginning when we started all this, right? So had we started maybe with these components, right, we would have had to have been able to like pass the state down as props and whatnot, right? If you're not comfortable with that, start this way, right, explicit, but know that if you start with all of that code, you can start grabbing those elements, making components, and whatever used to be state becomes props, and you pass them down, right? That's the whole idea that state in the parent becomes props in the child, right? We kind of started with the app being kind of big, right? And then refactored, restyled our code to making components for things. So let's see. So one thing I noticed is we're using split here, random word split, right? And then are we using random word split again somewhere? Scroll down. Go look in the alphabet. Is that the only place we're doing it? I think so. Okay. Yeah, we're just doing it first. Okay, cool. Cool. Go back to the app for a second. So before, Alan, you had said that correct yes count could be a state. Since that is only going to change on the letters chosen, we could compute that and set that, or we could compute it each time, right? 6 and 1, half dozen another. If this was a expensive computation, right? Maybe we would only want to do it one time. If this took a long time to run, then maybe we'd only want to do it every time someone chose a letter. But now we're going to have to call correct yes count anytime the display updates. So this could become, if we took this correct yes count and moved it down inside of letters chosen and assigned it a variable and then set state, then we could do this dot state dot correct yes count rather than call a function. That's another refactoring we could do. And then another time we can talk about why this code here is not great. Why updating states that are arrays are challenging. Okay. So this is about what we can expect.
One thing that we had came up with was putting a player count, and then at the end of the Snowman image, putting this.state.player count, and then when the path we were trying to go is when you selected a correct one, increment so plus one.
Yep. Yeah, you could have a count there, right? Make that 0. Or let's just call it correct guess count. Let's call that correct guess count. So what we could then do inside of letters chosen is before the set state, right? We could say let current correct guess count equal to this dot state dot correct guess count. Correct guess count. Right. So we could say below this, we could say if this dot state dot random word includes letter right, then right, braces current correct guess count plus plus. Save that. So you're probably going to have to put parentheses around your if statement. So it goes, yep, not there. If this, parentheses there, and then parentheses at the end of, before your brace. Right? No, before the brace. Yeah. So your if statements are always if, parentheses. So if you type if tab, go up to line 25 and go to the end of the line. Type if tab. If tab. Oh, really? Adam. It should autocomplete. What it should do is it should give you the parentheses and then the braces and put your cursor inside of the block.
So
Yes, it should do that.
If down.
If down? What? IF and then what are you doing?
Down one.
Oh, the down arrow?
Down and then down.
Okay, cool. Yes, but this makes it much easier for you to like type that kind of thing. So you can undo that. So now we've done the current guess count inside of set state. Let's add a second option by doing comma inside of set state on line 31. So we're also going to change the state of correct guess count. So no, delete. New line. Now change also correct guess count to be current correct guess count. So we're saying let the current correct guess count be however many guesses we've counted correctly already. If the random word includes the letter, increment the count, right? And then say what the current guess count is. Now, what will happen is we won't be incrementing by the number of letters, only the stages, right? So an L will only count as 1, right? So if you replace where we have the snowman image, scroll down to where we're passing the snowman, instead of this dot correct guess count, call a function, say this dot state dot current correct guess count. And then get rid of the rest of that. Yeah, and get rid of the parentheses. It's not a function. Right? So in words that have double letters,
We can pass it this.
this dot state dot current should be a 0, right? Correct guess count is let's look at the state on our app. We went to the React console on the right-hand side. In the browser, go to the React console. So the React console is going to be there. And then click on the app. And let's look at the state down below. See where it says app state current. That's a 0, right? So we're passing it. Oh, you said current correct guess count. That was probably my bad. It's this dot correct guess count with a little c. There we go. So as we guess letters, the challenge will be though is you're only adding 1, the current guess count. But if it's a double letter like hello, you're only getting a 1, right? Because they're saying if it includes that letter, add 1 to it. You'd have to add how many times that letter appeared in random word. Yeah, that's just a different function. I don't know if I would do it this way. I'd probably do it this way first. Then maybe refactor it towards this. The other thing you could do instead of filter is use reduce, because you're trying to select and count at the same time. So I'll leave that as a challenge to anybody who wants to take this and turn that filter into a reduce. The only difference is you'll get a reduce here where the filter is, and you get rid of the length. I don't know. I think filter is probably a little bit easier. Filter with a length is a little bit easier to understand than a reduce. But if it reduce floats your boat, then you can do a reduce. Cool. Hopefully this makes a little sense, little straightforward. Like that's the process. I would probably get rid of this code that we just did because we kind of broke it a little bit. So I would put that back to this dot correct guess count function. And then I would comment out lines 25 to 28. And then get rid of line 32. Delete it. And then get rid of the comment. That's fine. Yeah, and just put a comment here about line 25. Say something like attempt to increment a current guess count based on the letter. If you wanted to commit this. Right. Yeah. Questions? All right, and it's still that same process of starting out with something hard-coded and moving through turning things that are hard-coded into things that are dynamic. Right. One of the challenges, I think, is when you get to a point where you're stuck on something like, hey, how do I do this like correct guess count, or how do I turn the underscores into guess the letters? You have to treat it almost like it's a code war. You have to like stop and like move to something else, like pull that little bit of logic out and work on it separately. Like how would I do that if that was a code war? Like, hey, here's a word and the list of letters that I've already chosen. How would I show underscores or letters? Right? Treat them like little mini problems. Right? And then kind of push everything else away and just focus on that little problem. Even if it means you have to pop into the console and write a little bit of code right in the console, kind of playing around with the code. I would have to say that that's another challenge I've seen with students when they struggle with the whole algorithm thing and working through this code, is this like a hesitation from like playing with the code. Meaning, if you pop into the console like we did where we said like const letters chosen equals the array, and then we tried to like figure out whether or not the letters included, like that kind of experimentation in the console is really, really helpful. Right? Like, okay, if I have this letters chosen, how will I know? Or if I have this word and I have letters chosen, how can I map this into another thing? This little console is like your playground, right? It's like your ball of clay you can kind of play with and see what works and what doesn't work before you try and put it in the big, bad, complex app, right? Because what's going to happen when you try and put it in the big, bad, complex app is stuff's going to get broken, right? you're gonna have errors and nothing's gonna work, and then you're trying to figure it out. This over here, this this console here, is a nice safe playground where you can create some variables, make an array, try a map, right? Can I turn a word and a list of chosen letters into underscores or letters using map, right? Or how would I write a for loop to do it? Whatever it is you think of, this is the part where you can kind of play around with that. If you don't like the console here, the other thing you can do is, you've seen me do it, is you should be able to, on your terminal, type node, and that will also give you a JavaScript playground, right? Yeah, we got it when we installed Node and Yarn and all those things. Right? It's just a little JavaScript interpreter. Right? It's actually running the same JavaScript interpreter your Chrome browser is. Just you can access it from the terminal. So everything you can do here, you can do there. You can't do any fetches here. Right? The fetch API doesn't exist. Document doesn't exist because we're not in the browser. But if you just want to play with some JavaScript, just go into your terminal, type node, and play around, right? Don't be afraid to experiment and try things there. When you've broken a problem down to that bite-sized chunk, treat it like it was a code war, right? And try and write the code that makes that work. That's one thing that I've seen students really struggle with in the past, is they think that they have to solve that problem in the context of the app. The nice thing about breaking problems down to that size is you can lift them out of the context of the app, like put the app away and just work on that one small problem. If I have a string, an array of chosen letters, how do I turn that into underscores or letters? I'm just going to work on that. Once you have that code working independently, it's really much simpler to take that and put it back in the app than it is to try and work on it in the app at the same time. So I think that's another case where when working on an app, quote unquote, this big, it's like a forest in the trees kind of problem, right? You're trying to worry about props and state and whatnot, when really the problem you're trying to solve is, how do I turn on a string into underscores or letters, right? It has nothing to do with props or state. You're going to use props and state to do it, but the problem is much simpler than that. And if you're willing to jump into the console or into the node terminal and work on those problems independently, it's much easier. This is why we force you through the pain of doing things like code katas, right? Like, students have complained in the past, like, you make us do these code wars, like they're so boring and stupid and they're pointless. They're not, because like it showed up here, right? Right? It will show up in your work, right? Because you'll have to like filter things and map them and turn this thing into an array of this thing and compute things. I described them recently to an alumni that they are the push-ups you have to do, like when you're working on running a marathon, right? Like if you're going to be like or you're going to be a football player, right? Like they sit around and do weight training and push-ups, right? But they don't do push-ups as their job. But that's the workout you have to do to get good at your job. But code wars that we're doing makes these things simpler, right? And while these things are games and whatnot, like the same kind of logic will be the things you're going to do on your jobs. Just it will not be Snowman. It will be, right, employees for a display. It will be, which lights on the factory floor are on or off, right? Which robot is moving around the floor at, what's its faces? We all went to see the robots. Valpak, right? Right? Is this robot enabled or disabled? Is it driving around the floor or not? Right? Those sort of things. I also commented that if Jason were here, this would be a much prettier user interface.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, it would be. Well, before it was just a bullet list of like underscores and letters, not even display flags. And then Matt was like,
I would
no.
at least split it like 2 rows of 13
Yeah.
letters, and then I would have been done.
Yeah. Oh, there's a challenge. Okay, here's a challenge for you all. Do that. So the 2 challenges, if you want to pick up this code, is see if you can turn our filter into a reduce, and see if you can turn our alphabet implementation into 2 rows of 13. And then see if you can do it without our hard-coded letters array. See if you can get rid of that array and use that fancy array.new car 65 stuff that's in the video somewhere. If you go back and look at it, right? So I also like go back and take these things and play with them. I can't also emphasize enough playing with code. Like pull this down and start changing some things, or see how you would refactor it, or you know, try the reduce instead of a filter.
Can we add to it?
Mhm.
With the programming logic to it?
Yes. If you're going to do that, I would suggest copy this folder into another folder, right? Because if you start committing to this and somebody else starts committing to this, we'll get a lot of noise in the shared repo. But I welcome you to like take these and mess around with it, right? Because you'll learn a lot by taking something else and kind of poke and prod at it and see what there is. Cool. Assignment for today. You gave them a blogging assignment last week, right? So we're no.
If they had one the week before.
Oh, okay. So we were due for a blogging assignment. Yay! So a blogging assignment would be great. Here's the other thing that you all should start to consider is two things. One, if you are behind on turning in homework, take some time tonight to like work on that, get some homework turned in. If you think you're at least like 50% done, I would say at this point, if you've got more than 4 assignments overdue, but you think they are more than 50% complete, turn them in. I will let you know if I think they are complete, or I will give you some suggestions on what to do to get them complete. Before we jump into the next section, we should try and get our homework assignments cleared up. We'll assign the blog post, but also consider on the repositories you think are going to become your portfolio repositories. Like these are the apps I think are the most shiny. Go back to the READMEs and update the README to be something nice, right? Because you're getting the app ones, you're getting the Create React app ones. Turn them into a description of what this repository is, how you solved it, what techniques you used, a screenshot of the app, a link, another link to the app in production, because people don't always see it at the top, right? I will find a couple of good examples from past students who did a good job of this. The reason why is employers are going to troll your GitHub, especially if you have a portfolio and you link to the code. Have the README be nice. So that's another thing you all can add to the list of things to work on. Cool.